The voice of my wife could be heard through the phone, and it carried with it an air that was simultaneously urgent and uneasy. She begged me, "William, I need you to come to me as soon as you can. Should visit only the clinic of your friend and nowhere else." Her tone was trembling and fraught with anguish. My thoughts were flooded with worry, and my heart was racing. What exactly was the problem? But despite my concerns, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. If she changed her mind about going to the gym and instead went to the house of a friend, then it is beyond my comprehension why she is in such a hurry for me to drive her to the clinic that belongs to a friend of mine. My mind was arguing with a lot of different ideas. Should I bring up the contradiction with her and confront her? My stomach was in knots, and it was difficult to think straight as a result of my doubts. As I struggled to come to terms with my concerns, the love and trust that had been cultivated between us over the years compelled me to believe in her and to place her well-being ahead of anything else. Despite my cluttered mind, I mustered the courage to respond, of course. "My sweetheart, I am on my way. Just hold on." The drive there was filled with plenty of conflicting feelings and thoughts. Apprehension over the state of my wife's health coexisted with the uneasy suspicion that something was wrong. Her explanation didn't quite add together. It was her regular gym time, and I knew exactly where her gym was located. However, it was located in the opposite direction of the area she claimed to be. As I reached the exact house, she told me, I heard her scream. I went through the entire damn house, and I found her naked with a pale face, with part of the bedsheet crumbled on her and some of it on the mattress. When she saw me, she passed out. I was instantly aware of the wild circumstances that were taking place here. I picked her up and raced with her to the medical facility owned by a friend of mine. After examining my wife, my friend informed me of something that I had not been anticipating and was not in the least bit prepared to hear. I was under the impression that she had deceived me or that she had been read, but he informed me that more than one person had attempted to do it. He told me to get in touch with the authorities as soon as possible, before it was too late, and he also encouraged me to treat my wife with caution, because we are unsure of what exactly took place. I did not report anything to the authorities because Georgia urged me to take her to this clinic, and the fact that she did so indicates that there was something she did not want anyone else to know about. I stopped him from telling the police anything. No one will ever be able to imagine what it was like for me during the time that my wife was unconscious. But one thing was certain. She was not loyal to me. When I think back on all of the fights we had over the course of 6 months, I realized that she is someone I did not marry. There were times when I questioned whether or not she had someone else in her life, other than me, or whether she is upset with life's challenges. But I couldn't get up the nerve to ask her about it, because we had such a great life together. A few months ago, I was in the process of trying to figure out what has gotten into her. The truth about what took place there is only one way to find out when Georgia will open her eyes. But until then, I need to keep myself composed. After a period of time, she regained consciousness, and when she opened her eyes, I hurried up to her and took her hand while it was shaking. "Are you okay? What exactly took place?" When I inquired, she could hear the real concern and rage in my voice. She turned her head to look at me, and her eyes were filled with a mixture of embarrassment and shame. She stuttered, I'm so sorry." As she tried to apologize, I lied about where I was. I was not there forcefully. I was in the process of meeting somebody. Then she went on to say that she was seeing a black guy at her gym, and today she and he reserved an apartment for the whole day. However, when she arrived at the apartment, she was surprised to find that the black guy was there with 5 of his other friends. They subjected her to multiple acts of coercion, the last of which was carried out by her boyfriend, after which they left her unconscious in the rented flat. When I heard what had happened, my heart dropped, and the realization hit me like a wave crashing onto the beach. It was difficult for me to understand what she was saying since my mind was working so hard to keep up with the unfolding events. She had lied to me, which broke the trust that had served as the foundation of our relationship up until that point. Why? I was only able to mutter, and my voice was shaking with a combination of pain and rage. She drew in a slow breath as she noticed tears beginning to form in her eyes. I wanted something fresh, she said, her voice containing an odd mixture of pride and guilt. I wanted something fresh. I started having an affair with someone I met at the gym. I had the thought that I required something unique and fresh. In that instant, everything in my universe came crashing down. The hurt caused by her betrayal was severe, and I knew it would take some time for the wounds it caused to heal. I wanted to yell at her and take my anger out on her for all of the suffering she had caused. But despite the anguish, I came to the realization that the foundation of our relationship had been more than just her cheating on us. It had been a journey filled with shared achievements, hardships, and progress. My voice was shaking as I spoke the words. I need some time to process this, but I finally managed to get them out. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I need some space to figure it out. They advised me to be kind to her because she needs my love and affection. And when I left her room, the doctor told me about her physical and mental health. I didn't know what else the doctor said to me, but after hearing the words love and affection, I felt as if someone had just slashed my heart into pieces. We shared a lot of memories and dreams, and our connection seemed like it couldn't be broken. But as time went on, little things started to change in our once good relationship. I began to notice a change in Georgia's attitude. What used to make her happy now made her unhappy. Our talks became tense, with a lot of silence and frustrations we didn't say out loud. Georgia literally moved away, putting up an invisible wall that seemed impossible to break through. My heart was wounded by the pain of this emotional withdrawal. Puzzle parts have finally fallen to the ground. I realized that my wife's change in mood wasn't just because life had given us some problems. It was because she wasn't being faithful and wanted to try something new. The news hit me like a bolt of lightning. My mind was full of questions, and my heart was full of anger. How could she break the trust we'd built up? Why did she take this road without thinking about what would happen? I was so angry that I wanted to get even and get payback. But as the emotional storm raged inside of me, I could see how much it would hurt my own mental peace. Seeking revenge would only keep the circle of pain going and make it impossible to find peace. Because of her new encounters, she turned my home, which was once my paradise, into a tormenting place for me to live in. This caused her to make my life a living nightmare. As a result of the inconsequential disagreements that we kept having with one another, I started looking for excuses to avoid going back home. I have determined to go after those jerks and teach them a lesson so that they will never mess with my wife or any other woman again. This is true regardless of the difficulties that may arise in my relationship with my wife. No one would dare to hurt her. I need to begin my investigation at the gym in order to learn more about that moron, such as his name and where he is from. I didn't ask my wife for any specifics since I didn't want anyone to have the slightest bit of uncertainty about what I was about to do to them. So I went to the gym and collected all of the information that I needed. And then I went to the place that he had given to the gym, and I got to know that he gave them the wrong address. So again, I went back to the gym, and after about an hour, I obtained his picture. And then I went to the same place where I'd gone previously, and I started showing the picture to everyone I passed along the way. I portrayed that I was looking for that person because he took my money and vanished. And now I am looking for him to get my money back. And also, I have shown myself a huge, nasty guy that deals in shady business, and he was working for me, even though the neighborhood was not very hospitable in that location. After about an entire day of searching, one adolescent lad told me about that jerk, and I learned that he was not even on a legal visa here and that he moves about quite frequently. In addition to that, he is involved in criminal activities. That teenager also provided me with his current location. So I went there once again. The neighborhood was not pleasant there. However, this time I took my baseball bat with me from my car and went straight inside the building. I knocked on the door and hid my bat behind it. However, no one answered the door, so I entered the house because the door wasn't locked. There was a lot of smoke inside, and 4 or 5 hooligans were smoking and drinking while they were only half aware. I grabbed a picture out of my back pocket to confirm, and I saw him lying down on the sofa. I started beating him, and I didn't know where I was hitting him. But when he started screaming, all those hooligans tried to stop me. And when I hit them, they ran outside, and he was left alone with me. After that, I don't remember how long I beat him, but I make sure that he never walks again. And even if he does, he will be crippled. While I was leaving, I updated him that he couldn't register a complaint against me because 1, he is living in the country illegally, and 2nd, even if he did submit a complaint, I would press charges against him for the rape of my wife. She took her time becoming physically better, and the physicians made sure that her health was their top priority. But the scars that remained were not only visible on her body, they also penetrated deeply into her spirit. Therapy was suggested by the doctors as a means of recovering from her emotional wounds and regaining her sense of who she is, since they understood the significance of addressing her emotional wounds. After learning of her condition, I was at a loss for what to do next because I am unable to live with her, but she is not yet able to handle living by herself in this state. I didn't know what to do. As the days stretched into weeks, the wounds gradually began to become covered in scabs. We looked for consolation in therapy and honest conversation as we struggled to negotiate the perilous terrain of the healing process. But the harm was already done, and the fabric of our previously unshakable tie had been irrevocably changed as a result. Another unexpected challenge presented itself to us just as we were starting to feel like we had some control over our lives again. My wife first shared the news with me that she was expecting a baby during one of our sessions in therapy. My reactions were all over the place after I heard the news, as it came on suddenly and unexpectedly. A turbulent storm was caused by the collision of anger, confusion, and dissatisfaction. How could I possibly move on with my life, knowing that an offspring would serve as a continual reminder of the affair that led to the destruction of our relationship? Any notion of love that had been preserved was in danger of being suffocated by the mounting pressure of the betrayal. When I first started to believe that now I'm getting back to my life, I was mistaken because I was not, and I was just fooling myself into thinking that I was. When the truth about my wife's pregnancy finally sank in, I realized that it was getting more and harder to suppress my rage. I couldn't wait for the baby to arrive. The hatred and animosity that had been building up beneath the surface for some time finally came to the surface, and it did so in the form of a barrage of stinging words and accusations. I lashed out because I was unable to comprehend how my wife could bring a child into our broken world. The child was a reminder of the infidelity that drove us apart, and I couldn't understand how she could do that. In the end, I made the choice to go my separate way. The emotional anguish caused by the betrayal, in conjunction with the persistent trust concerns, proved to be insurmountable obstacles. I couldn't help but feel a mixture of sadness and relief as we said our goodbyes and went our separate ways. The breakup did not come without its share of difficulties. The emotional wounds persisted, permanently carved into the very fabric of our beings. But as time went on, the wounds started to slowly heal, and now there are only traces left behind to remind us of what we once had in common. My ex-wife began the road of becoming a mother on her own, shifting her attention to caring for the life that was developing inside of her. As for me, I was resolved to reconstruct my life and find my own sense of happiness again. So I found solace in self-reflection and personal development. Even though the road that lay ahead of us was unclear, the two of us were aware that the scars that were caused by the affair would always leave a trace. My recovery and regaining the parts of myself that I had misplaced along the way were both made possible by the space and time that the separation provided me. After the separation, I never contacted her, despite the fact that I knew she was in the worst mental health of her life, and I was trying to help her. But when she informed me about her pregnancy, I realized I was just bottling up my rage. And it vents out that day, I understood that I want this to be ended and never looked back. So I don't know how is going to bring that baby into this world with this mental condition. My life has taken a number of divergent twists over the course of the years, each of which has led me down a unique road of growth and insight. The wounds I sustained in the past eventually healed to become scars, which serve as constant reminders of the struggles I overcame and the resilience I discovered deep within myself. And when I stepped into my new life, I brought with me the wisdom that I had gained from my previous experiences. The path was challenging, but it brought me to a destination from where I could see my future, illuminated by 3 guiding beacons: the search for happiness, the act of forgiving others, and the growth of personally. Update. One evening, as I was dining in a busy restaurant, I happened to run into her sister there. During the time that we were waiting for our tables, her sister and I struck up a conversation. She told me that my ex-wife had been going through a tough patch, and that despite the fact that she had a child, she was currently living alone in a psychiatric facility. When I heard the news, I immediately felt a combination of intrigue and alarm. I went to see her, but because of her precarious health, I wasn't granted permission to meet her. I then asked them if I could only see her, and they accepted my request. When I saw her, she was sitting on the side of her bed, her eyes vacant and filled with melancholy. Her frail appearance gave away the toll that her current situation had placed on her health and well-being. After seeing her in that state, I was able to forgive her, and it was as if a big weight had been lifted off my chest. However, this does not mean that I will ever get back together with her. That is not going to happen under any circumstances. However, in order to free myself from the wounds of the past, I need to forgive and forget her because she is currently bearing the consequences of her poor decisions, which she will continue to bear for the rest of her life.